When I was in the ninth standard, my mom and dad took me to a trip to the Big Apple, New York. Wow. And that's when I went crazy. We earned about 6 rupees for each outing. But in the next 5 years, what I'd like to do is reach out to people that need help.
You are listening to the Random Genius Media Podcast.
So, welcome to Conversations with Wisdom. Today we have the youngest old man. He simply goes by the name of Daryl Dsouza. And I'm going to let him introduce himself because I think he'll do a much better job of it. Daryl, over to you. A brief intro.
Hi, Sheldon. Great being here. My name is Daryl Dsouza. I stay in Mumbai in a pretty little suburb called Bandra West. And I've been here for the last maybe 25 years or so. Basically, started off in hotel management and then moved on to events. From events, I went into consultation, and here I am talking to Sheldon.
Okay. So, you actually kind of jumped the queue a little because I was going to get to your early years. But before we do that, I mean, coming to Daryl, fun guy, and always, um, it's always intrigued me. In fact, this conversation is long overdue because the last time we met at one of the audio summits, and I tried to sit Daryl down on the sidelines and have a conversation with him, but it was quite half baked. So it's always been on my agenda to get Daryl back on this particular platform and ask him a few questions. Of course, the genesis and um, the thinking behind this initiative has always been to kind of draw from the experiences, I wouldn't say of seniors, but of interesting folks, right? People with diverse backgrounds, people that we all can sort of learn stuff from. Daryl, I just want to know a little bit about your early years, right? Because to me, you're a very, very eclectic person, right? You have very diverse tastes, and you really are somebody who kind of strikes me as being a global citizen, well traveled, well informed, someone who can talk about anything, and someone who has advice to give on anything, right? And genuine good advice, not ill informed stuff. So it always, I mean, obviously being a parent myself, and this is something that is kind of from my personal point of view. Just wanted to know a little bit about your background, right? How did you sort of grow up uh, in Mumbai? Tell us a little bit about your growing up. What was family like? Um, Mom, dad, brother, and just any interesting nuggets of information that sort of we can learn from. Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to the early days, I was born and brought up in Kulaba, which is popularly known as South Mumbai. I did my schooling there as well. Not exactly in Kulaba, but in Girgom in a school called Saint Sebastian. So mom and dad were both working, and uh, we stayed with our aunt who looked after us very well, and from there we went to a school nearby. And mom and dad used to come to my aunt's house in the evening. They used to have their dinner and go back home. Most days we would um, stay over in my aunt's house because it was easier to get to school from there. And then weekends we used to go back home to Colaba. And in Colaba, I had in those days what was a LP player, and I had a great collection of a lot of rock albums. And I remember the amplifier that I had was Cosmic and two speakers. So that was a time I could really connect with my music, play all the favorite stuff, blast it. So the neighbors used to dread the weekends when the boys used to be home. And yep, so then we needed, as we grew older, we needed to go out for movies, we needed to go and eat out besides home food. So where do you get the money from? Your schooling. So there was Catholic weddings at those days used to, um, there was a caterer who was very upmarket. So he chose to get on these Catholic boys who could help in service and PR and stuff like that. So that was one of the jobs that we got. And we earned about 6 rupees for each outing.
Wow. So give us a like ballpark year we're talking about?
Ballpark year. Maybe the last century, I think. But I would think so, 1970?
The early 70s, late 70s?
Yeah, mid 70s. Mid
Mid-seventies.
70s, yeah.
6 rupees, huh?
6 rupees, yes.
Okay, that's cool.
So that was what we were paid, and of course, whenever the people that had the party tipped, we got that. So with that kind of background, then it was automatic that I joined the food industry to study, of course. So I did 1 year in Dada Catering College, uh, did a bakery course there, bakery and confectionery. And then I moved on to doing hotel management at Sophia Polytechnic. That was a 2 year course. But I don't remember much of it because most of it was in a haze of, pot. it,
You mean flower pots?
yeah, flower pots.
Flower
Yes.
pots.
But it was interesting because of my skills in bakery and confectionery. I was mainly called to help out with outdoor caterings there as well. So 2 years of that went by, and then I joined Hotel Sea Rock as one of the most junior people there. Then I moved on to working in the bar and being a barman there, but soon got fed up of that. Then I moved to the oil field, where I worked in the oil field on various boats, platforms, barges, rigs, and then went on to become a base manager for my company, where I was controlling maybe about 10 different rigs from a show, and of course I needed to go on board and monitor stuff and things like that. Sheldon, anything else?
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of stuff that I didn't know about you. So that's quite interesting. I mean, the flower pot stuff I knew about, I've heard about. But apart from that, very interesting. So, it's funny how, I mean, obviously life experiences influence where one goes and how one perceives life and stuff like that. But I remember having this conversation with you once where you told me that because if anyone who knows Daryl will know that he's a kind of guy that doesn't, and this obviously I don't know him from his days in Colaba, but I know him from his days in Bandra, and we'll come to Bandra quickly. But
Okay.
so yeah, so I know Daryl from, I mean, one of the things you've told me, Daryl, is that when you were young, you were a carefree spirit from your very early days, right? You'd love rambling. It was never about staying at home. You were never in the house. You always found some reason to just be out of the house, right? And anyone who knows Daryl, and I hope Sophie will be listening to this at some point in time, because I was planning to give Sophie a call to get some inside juice on Daryl, but I'm sure anyone who knows Daryl will know that he hates using vehicular transport. His best mode of transport are his two legs. And that's one of the things that struck me the most from the time I met Daryl. Keychain jangling from his denims, and he's honest to legs. And there's a very interesting story on how he went to the hospital late at night, and we'll get to that. But so Daryl, were you always this athletic or energetic, or I might be digressing a bit from my train of thought, but the point is that when did you sort of imbibe this, or was it just because of the time in the 70s where there was not too much distraction happening, that you just got a chance to explore the outdoors? And the other question I was coming to was, when did the travel bug bite, right? When did you actually start exploring the world?
Okay, so the physical aspect was in school, sports. Um, we're part of the football team, athletics. Um, I was, I never did have the stamina, so I was more of an opportunist. I had speed over short distances, so the running was short distance. And in the football or hockey field, I was always up front, where some poor guy who labored would pass me the ball, and then I used to just make a dash and score.
And get your name up on the board.
Yeah, of course. So, as far as the free spirit goes, music was always part of my interest. So, I think when I was in the ninth standard, my mom and dad took me to a trip to the Big Apple, New York.
Wow.
And that's when I went crazy. I saw all this DJ gear, DJ decor, and I just went ballistic. And of course, at that time, I was a little bit stubborn and made my mom buy me a whole lot of stuff, which they did. So I had these UV posters. I had a mixer, which was alien to a lot of people here in India. Bought all the stuff down, and then we ran a mobile disco for some time here in Mumbai, and then I took the whole thing and went to Goa, where we set up a disco on one of the terraces of a hotel there. And I distinctly remember that was the year Bob Marley died. So that's, yeah,
okay.
so you can get a perspective on the time on that. So that's where I took to DJing, and of course more flower pots, and and then it went on. So obviously you can't be a DJ all your life. So I moved from that when a friend called me to help him out with some events. I said, yeah, sure, I'll come help you. And then from helping to joining the company to having my own company, that's how the progression happened in the event space. So the event space happened after the food and beverage. I got a little bit too fed up with the food and beverage things, so that's when I moved into events.
Cool. We've just moved some flower pots into the room, so I kind of forgot my question. I don't even know what we're talking about. But coincidentally, you talked about Bob Marley passing away that year, and this year, in fact, on Feb 22nd or 23rd, they are premiering One Love, which is the Bob Marley biography. So it's very interesting for any fans of Bob Marley out there to sort of go and check it out. So we've talked about early years and, the travel bug and your parents. You still haven't told us about all the secret locations that you travel to. Maybe you'll open up a little more once some of the soft beverages which you've been served go down. But, so what's the day in the life of Daryl like, right? I mean, so now we're in Bandra, we're in present day. We haven't even come to all the extracurricular activities that you're up to. You went through a pretty serious operation recently, and you've come out in flying colors. So, kudos for that. But the other amazing thing about Daryl Dsouza is the amount of people's lives that you touch on a daily basis, right? You are the secretary of your building, a position that everyone runs in the opposite direction of whenever called to sort of take on that mantle. But tell us about how you go about your day? I mean, what keeps you occupied these days?
Well, okay, I stay in a society which is a very, very old society. It's some 40 years old. And being an old society is when a lot of the then young people, purchase flats here. And of course, today, um, time has gone by and we have a lot of senior citizens living alone because their siblings have gone abroad for better prospects. So they're here alone and they have basic problems. Either their lights are not working, their cell phone is not working, or their TV has gone into some different mode. And so I get called for all that, which I don't mind at all.
Daryl.
Yeah, yeah, they seem to have me on speed dial.
Speed dial.
Yeah. And of course, being at that age, a lot of them have medical issues. So, being in and out of hospital myself, I'm very familiar with hospitals. So, so I help them out with, getting admitted and all the small little things that matter to make their life a little, little more easy.
So Daryl is a logo Random Genius Media is going to develop for him, and we're going to start charging a little money for it, a not too distant future. Okay, can we get personal and ask you some a very personal question, right? Yeah. So obviously you're single, you're a bachelor, at least to the known. To the public at large. Do you think you're missing out on being married? And would you trade it? And what advice would you give to somebody or a youngster out there who's saying, should I get married? Should I say single?
Missing out, yes and no. Okay. Yes, because sometimes you miss the companionship. When you're married, you have your wife by yourself through thick and thin. And that's something that you miss when you're single. You can wake up at night and you reach out and you find that the pillow next to you is empty, So definitely you miss out on that. And the psychological support that a spouse can give you, definitely all those things. Whether I trade it is speculative. I really don't know. Sheldon's laughing, of course.
Try to corner you in, but
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, possibly if the right person came along, I would kind of trade places, I guess. And my advice to you is marriage is sacred. So whatever you do, keep it sacred. Don't just get into it for the heck of getting into it and get out of it 2 years later. That's not done. That's my advice to you.
20 thumbs up to that advice. Actually, I should say 18 thumbs up to that. Yes. My wife gave another 18 thumbs up to that. Okay, let's get lighter. If Daryl's story was to be told in a cinematic rendition, right? A theatrical production, who would play the lead role and why?
You mean an actor?
Who would play you?
That's a. I can think of Dustin Hoffman because of the height.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
He's a great actor.
he's a great actor,
Very
and he's a bit of a romantic as well, I guess.
Which is your favorite Dustin Hoffman movie?
I don't know. But he just came to mind. And some people tell me I look like someone, but I've forgotten like who. Definitely not Dustin Hoffman. And
Al Pacino?
no, not Al Pacino.
Okay.
Someone else, some name I
Joe
forget.
Pesci.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put your picture out there and ask a question.
Yeah.
There's no prize for it.
Who-
But we'll get
yeah.
people to guess.
So, yes, I would think Dustin Hoffman would be a great guy to play my role for obvious reasons.
Cool. So I think Daryl, I can go on and on asking you a lot of stuff. Very interesting life, very interesting journey. But obviously, want to try and consolidate the most important, interesting parts of it, where do you see, or what do you see uh, Daryl doing next, say, 5 years, in the coming 5 years? What are your 5, 10 years? What are your short-term, long-term goals, right? Sorry for the MBA type question, but I try to make this more of an educational experience. So, what do you think, or how do you think in terms of setting goals for yourself?
Well, for now, I can think of the next 5 years. Beyond 5 years, I don't know if I'll have the energy and the incentive to really go on. But in the next 5 years, what I'd like to do is reach out to people that need help, especially the young ones and, of course, the old ones, and try and make their life a little more easier in whichever way you can. The young ones, of course, give them the support to better the education because a lot of them don't come from very rich families, and education being what it is today needs a lot of support. And the elderly, they also, because they need the support, because of the support that they need. And of course, I have a real fondness for animals, so someday I'd like to see a kind of healthcare program or environment where animals can come and be taken care of and things like that. So yeah, broadly, those are what I'm looking at in the next 5 years.
Super. Thank you so much, Daryl. We don't have any coffee with current type uh, quick fire questions or witty questions to ask you. We just give you some cool vodka and mojitos to quench your thirst on, and some flower pots which we'll gift you for your house. And just want to thank you for not just today, but for just being in Priya and my life. Of course, we have a mutual friend, Ryan, who sort of brought us together. That's where the journey started. The bugger fled the coop and is happily in the US. Thank you so much, and wish you more power, and hope you achieve whatever you want to.
Thank you very much, Sheldon. It was great talking to you. I hope you've got some kind of an insight and advice that I can impart to you.
Before we let you go, Daryl, there are two very special people who would like to say a few words. Let's listen in.
Daryl, I've known him for over 45 years, but became friends 30 years ago when he came to work for Cupid, the office which was in my dad's building. I've never come across someone so dependable and helpful. The love and friendship that he showered upon my parents puts us 6 siblings to shame. He may be short in stature, but long for his zest in life and for women, of course. Something I would like to say about Daryl, he never hesitated to help anybody. He even changed Auntie Valerie's pampers, which I give him total credit and love him for that. Daryl, love you, buddy.
So start off with, I met Daryl when we moved into our current apartment, and he was very helpful and helped us sort out a lot of things, right? Kind of told us what the rules were, and then like this, getting in touch with the right sort of people, and has been very helpful, very warm, very welcoming. The entire society is, but I think like Daryl was stood out there. So I think that's why I met him for the first time, and then ever since that we keep on running into him every evening on his exercise spaces out there, and again common interest in music, and it's a fun guy to chat with. Of course, we both also have a similar taste in gadgets and ended up buying the same phone after a lengthy conversation. I guess the one thing that most people don't know about Daryl is he's actually a very fit guy, who is always every evening in his cool sportswear strutting himself around around Ashiana, that's where we live, and setting the precedent on how to be fit. And he's constantly, the set of stairs that we have, and he's constantly working out there every evening without fail. Uh, just to summarize, super kind, super fun guy, always helpful, always ready to help everybody. So I think like that would be like a summary of him in a short summary for you.
So, people, that was another another episode of Conversations with Wisdom. You can always sort of suggest folks that you think, merit this platform. We're not very fussy about whom we take on. Actually, we are a little bit fussy. We don't want to have an age bracket, but the intention is to bring on interesting people that we can learn from, right? So we leave it at that. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Sophie and Cyril, for adding your inputs as well. I know Daryl will be most pleased. Till we meet again on another episode of Conversations with Wisdom, this is Sheldon signing off. Thank you.
You are listening to the Random Genius Media Podcast.